Discover the incredible life-changing moment when a CEO helped a hidden heroine, a touching tale. The little diner on the corner of Maple and Main was where dreams collided and lives transformed. The bell above the door jingled as Sarah hurried in to refill coffee for the regulars. 32 years old and heavy with the burden of single motherhood, she moved between tables with a grace forged from countless hours on her feet. The air was thick with the scent of frying bacon and hash browns, but her heart felt heavier still. Each clink of glassware echoed like a reminder of the rent due or worse, eviction looming over her and her 2 kids, Jake and Lily. "Just another day, huh?" she said with a bright smile to Mr. Johnson, her favorite elderly customer. He grinned back, but his once lively eyes reflected the townsfolk's unspoken sorrow. "You're a trooper, Sarah," he replied, but his voice was tinged with pity. Once upon a time, dreams of owning a bakery danced in her mind, sweet scents wafting through autumn winds, but now, each passing month felt like a cruel reminder that the dreams had dimmed. She often poured coffee and shared snippets of her childhood hopes with her loyal customers, but worry had seeped into her soul like spilled coffee. "Just keep your head up, Sarah," she reminded herself, a mantra whispered against a cacophony of adversity. A few blocks away, Mark stood staring at the familiar diner, now shadowed by the weight of success he had chased. The boy who left town was now a 45-year-old CEO, but inside, he felt hollow. The rush of investment meetings, the glimmer of dollar signs, all chased away the warmth of community he had once known. As he stepped into the diner, the smell of grease wrapped around him like a comforting old sweater, though he hardly dared to hope anyone recognized his face now. "Coffee?" he asked as he approached the counter, catching Sarah off guard. She looked up, and their eyes locked for a moment that sparked a flicker of recognition, a thread connecting their pasts. Moments later, Sarah glanced down at a community flyer settled on the counter, a charity event hosted by none other than Mark. Her heart raced at the possibility, a chance to speak up for families like hers. But as hope mingled with trepidation, she swallowed hard. What would he see in her? A waitress fading in the shadows? Or a mother fighting desperately for her children? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mark could sense a longing in Sarah's eyes for something greater, something she felt was slipping through her fingers like sand. Their worlds seemed different but somehow intertwined, and he could feel the pull of nostalgia blend with the urgency of the present. As he listened to her stories, their laughter mixed with solemnity, he felt the heavy fog of his wealth begin to lift, replaced by a profound connection pulling at his heart. As the charity event neared, Sarah prepped herself but felt dread and excitement twist in her stomach. Would she find the courage to face him? Could she share her story without fear? Meanwhile, Mark grappled with his own regrets, feeling isolated despite being surrounded by the trappings of success. Both stood at crossroads, moments away from a revelation that could change everything. Would Mark finally see the hidden heroism in Sarah, the woman whose relentless spirit mirrored his own? Or would they remain locked in silence, bridges unbuilt? The air crackled with tension, hope flickering like a candle fighting against the wind, leaving readers breathlessly anticipating the paths these two once separate lives would take. The warm glow of the diner light flickered as the end of the day approached. Sarah was wiping down the last table when she spotted Mr. Johnson gazing wistfully out the window, a half-finished cup in front of him. "Long day?" she asked, moving to his side. He sighed, the weight of unspoken memories resting heavily on his shoulders. "You know, when I was your age, I thought I had it all figured out." His eyes turned back to her, searching for something. But life had other plans. Sarah leaned against the counter, the cool metal pressing against her. "What happened?" "I chased success without ever thinking what it really meant," he replied slowly. I lost touch with everything that mattered. Don't make my mistakes, Sarah. She caught his gaze, knitting her brow. Mr. Johnson's words echoed like a faint warning bell, and the thought pressed down on her soul. Did she really want to keep dreaming of that bakery while juggling bills? While trying to be everything to her kids? Some days feel like I'm just surviving, she admitted softly, but I keep going for Jake and Lily. Sometimes it's the smallest steps that lead to the biggest changes, he encouraged, his voice an anchor in her fleeting storm of uncertainty. But Sarah's heart drummed a different rhythm. It felt like she was standing on the precipice, staring at the unknown ahead. At that very moment, Mark stepped back into the diner, determination etched across his face. The sight of Sarah brought back flashes of a simpler time before ambition clouded his heart and head. Can I get anyone another round of coffee? She asked, her voice brightening the dim space. Just one more, he replied, returning her drink to her, but this time, the simmering sense of familiarity surged deeper. Maybe, just maybe, she was the missing piece he needed. As Sarah refocused on her tasks, she couldn't shake the feeling that the charity event looming ahead was different. She rehearsed her speech in her mind, her heart racing at the thought of standing before those strangers, speaking her truth. What if she shared her journey? Would she become the voice for families who fought battles nobody saw? Mark leaned against the counter, watching her. He saw the flickering shadows of grief and hope on her face and felt an overwhelming urge to reach out. Are you coming to the charity event? He asked, empathy threading through his tone. She hesitated. I want to, but I'm not sure I belong there. The fear of not measuring up stung like a splinter. Everyone belongs there, Sarah. We're all just people trying to make a difference, he reassured her, determination creeping into his voice. It was that moment, the connection, that brought a split second of clarity. Maybe it was her turn to shine. With each passing day, the charity event loomed closer, a countdown lifting the weight of all her previous doubts. She felt a surge of unexpected confidence, fueled not only by Mr. Johnson's words but also by Mark's unwavering gaze. As that light flickered in her chest, she thought of all the children like Jake and Lily who deserved a champion. Yet in the back of her mind, the nagging question remained, what if she wasn't enough? And for Mark, as he watched her transform bit by bit, he felt an urgent tugging in his heart. He knew her story was powerful, but what if speaking out took her down a path too painful to walk? As the diner closed its doors for the day, a silent pact seemed to form. Both felt the electric pulse of change coursing through their veins. But would they embrace it? Would Sarah find her voice, and would Mark unlock the secrets of his own heart before it was too late? Together, they stood at a crucial threshold. Their lives were about to intertwine in ways neither could yet fathom. With every beat of their hearts, a question loomed larger: would they take that leap, or let fear seize the moment? The morning sun crept through the diner windows, casting soft shadows across the counter. Sarah busied herself with the early breakfast crowd, but her thoughts drifted to the charity event. The television news had covered it earlier, showing clips of last year's success stories. Those families, their smiles bright against the somber backdrop of their struggles, fueled a fire within her. They weren't just faces, they were hopes she wanted to lift up. Coffee to go? She asked a rush of newcomers who had snatched up the last booth. They nodded, smiles wide with morning excitement. She filled their cups and felt a glimmer of joy bubble up inside her. That little act of service, simple yet meaningful, made her heart swell. But that joy was fleeting. In quiet moments, a heaviness settled in her chest. What if her voice didn't resonate? What if the audience saw her as just another tired mother trying to pass off her struggles? Would anyone even care? Those questions wrapped around her like winter chill, relentless and suffocating. Mark entered through the diner's door again, and Sarah felt that electric connection surge between them. You look like you could use a coffee, he grinned, wiping the remnants of sleep from his eyes. Only if you promise to drink it with me, she replied, unable to help a smile from creeping onto her face. I'd love to. He slid into the seat across from her, accepting the steaming cup she offered. Their fingers brushed when he took it, and a jolt coursed through her. It was a reminder of how much she longed for connection, not just with him but with the world around her. "Have you practiced your speech yet?" he asked, arching an eyebrow playfully. "I tried, but I couldn't get past the first line without feeling like a fraud," she said, frustration bubbling up like hot coffee spilling over. "What if I open my mouth and nothing comes out?" "Start from the heart. You have a story to tell, Sarah. It's your story." He leaned in, his voice low and reassuring. "That's what matters." His eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, all her doubts faded, replaced by a flicker of hope. "You really think so?" she asked, as if his words held a magic wand that could erase her fears. "I know so," he replied with certainty, and she saw the truth shining in his gaze. Suddenly, the world outside felt clearer, the diner brighter. Maybe she could be the voice those families needed. The prospect transformed fear into a driving force. She could picture Jake and Lily sitting in the front row, their eyes wide with pride. As the day wore on, she noticed her strength growing, a warmth expanding in her chest. She spent her shifts pouring coffee and sharing laughter, her step a little lighter. As customers flowed in and out, she noted their kindness, the shared greetings, the light-hearted banter, and it felt like a community rising around her. But the closer they got to the event, the more she noticed Mark's intensity shifting. He'd steal glances at her, and there was a depth in his eyes that told her he was grappling with something significant. Was it just her mind playing tricks, or was there something he needed to express? "Are you okay?" she finally asked, concern etching into her brow as their eyes met. "I've been thinking about my past," he admitted, his voice heavy with secrets. "And maybe I need to share it too." Sarah's heart raced, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty swirling inside her. What was he hiding? And would this shared burden bring them closer or drive them apart? As those questions lingered, the air thickened between them. Would they both find the courage to step forward together, revealing their truths in a world that often celebrates silence? Just then, the bell above the diner door jingled, announcing another wave of customers, but all Sarah could feel was the mounting tension and the promise of change on the horizon. Would they be ready for it? The day moved quickly, filled with the usual bustle of customers, students grabbing breakfast before class, retirees sipping coffee while chatting with friends, and young parents wrangling their kids. Amid the laughter and chatter, Sarah kept sneaking glances at Mark, who sat at the corner table, lost in thought. His furrowed brow and distant gaze made her heart ache. She wanted to know his story, to understand why it weighed on him so heavily. "Sarah!" A familiar voice called, breaking her focus. It was Linda, her friend from high school, waving enthusiastically as she entered. "Look who's here." "Well, if it isn't my favorite customer," Sarah exclaimed, her heart lifting. Linda always brightened her day, a reminder of the life she used to have before the weight of worry had settled in. The two embraced, laughter spilling from their lips like old times. "I just had to stop by. I heard about the event you're speaking at. You're going to be amazing," Linda insisted, her bright eyes sparkling with encouragement. "Thanks, but honestly, I'm terrified," Sarah confessed, wiping her hands on her apron. "What if it's a disaster?" "Nonsense. Remember that time we gave our graduation speech together? You took charge, and I just followed your lead. You speak from your heart, and people will listen." Her words rang true, stirring something deep inside Sarah. Maybe Linda's faith was the boost she needed. "You're right," she said, a smile returning to her face. "I have to own my story." But just as those thoughts settled in, she caught Mark's gaze again. He hadn't moved, but his eyes reflected concern and an unspoken question that seemed to echo in the space between them. "Hey, I need a second," she told Linda, her voice low. "I'll be right back." As Sarah approached Mark, her heart raced. "Hey," she said softly, unsure of what to say next. "Are you all right?" Slowly, he nodded, though his expression remained tense. "Actually, no. I've been thinking about my past, like, really thinking about it. A lot of what I've done, it feels like it's catching up with me." His confession hung in the air, heavy and raw. "Maybe it's time to let it go," she offered. "You don't have to carry it alone." Mark hesitated, his hands resting on the table. "What if sharing it makes me vulnerable? What if it changes how people see me? Or what if sharing it connects you with others? You never know who might need to hear your story." The warmth of her words seemed to melt some of his walls, and a flicker of recognition passed between them. "Sarah," he said, leaning closer, "your words give me hope. Maybe I can find a way to share my story, just like you." Her heart swelled at the idea of them embarking on this emotional journey together. The thought of facing their truths, side by side, felt exhilarating. But before she could respond, a loud commotion erupted at the front of the diner. A couple of teenagers had bumped into the door, laughing, causing a ripple of startled expressions. They instantly brightened the heavy moment with their energy. Yet, amidst their laughter, Sarah noticed one of them, a girl with wild curls and anxious eyes. She reminded her of herself at that age, caught between the thrill of youth and the weight of unspoken fears. "Hey, just a second," Sarah said to Mark, feeling a pull towards the girl. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, leaning forward to catch the girl's gaze. "Yeah, just not having the best day," the girl admitted, her voice small. "Do you want to talk about it?" With a shrug, the girl bit her lip. "Maybe. I don't know." That was enough. A possibility hung in the air, a thread connecting them. As Sarah took a seat next to her, she glanced back at Mark, who seemed to have shifted his focus, a new spark in his eyes. Could they both find strength in vulnerability? Would this girl help ignite a new chapter in their lives, one full of shared truths? As Sarah listened intently and Mark watched carefully, she felt that spark of hope flickering alive again, the promise of something beautiful on the horizon. What would happen if both of them stepped fully into their stories together? Sarah turned her full attention to the girl. "What is your name?" she asked gently. "Lucy," the girl replied, her voice still quiet. I guess I just feel really out of place sometimes. Like no one understands me." "Lucy," Sarah said, her heart swelling with empathy. "I remember feeling that way. It's okay to feel out of place. Sometimes, we just need someone to listen." Mark, still at his table, watched the exchange unfold. He felt a peculiar tether pulling him closer to both of them. Just moments ago, he had been ensnared by his own thoughts, but now he felt a flicker of connection sparking amongst them. The shadows of his past lingered in his mind, yet the warmth of this moment began nudging them away. "Do you want to share what's on your mind?" Sarah encouraged Lucy, her voice patient and inviting. Lucy sighed, glancing around the diner as if to gather her thoughts. "I'm not good at anything, you know. Just school or anything. I feel like I should be someone else. I don't even know what I want to do next. Everyone seems to have it all figured out but me." "Lucy, you'd be surprised how many people actually feel that way." Sarah smiled softly. "You don't have to have all the answers, especially not right now. Sometimes it takes time to discover who you are and what you're meant to do." Mark leaned forward slightly, his interest piqued. He remembered being Lucy's age, feeling the daunting pressure of expectations bearing down on him. Regret twisted inside him. If only he had reached out sooner, if only someone had been there to tell him he didn't have to carry everything alone. "Look at it this way," Sarah continued. "Every person's journey is different. I've had my struggles too. I'm scared to speak at an upcoming event. But I'm realizing that our stories are what make us uniquely ourselves. They connect us, even when we feel lost." "She's right." Mark's voice was unexpected but steady, jolting both Sarah and Lucy from their private thoughts. "It's easier to hide behind walls. But breaking them down can lead to stronger connections, trust me, I know. Their eyes shifted to Mark, the stranger who had been the embodiment of sorrow moments ago. Lucy's brow furrowed in curiosity, and Sarah felt a mix of surprise and gratitude towards him. Witnessing his gradual openness felt like a gentle nudge in the right direction. "Have you ever shared your story?" Lucy asked, her eyes wide with intrigue. Mark hesitated, the weight of his hidden burdens looming. He took a deep breath, looking in Lucy's eyes, and it was as if he could see a reflection of himself, lost, eager, and frightened. "Not really. But I think maybe I'm starting to find a way. Why not share it with us?" Sarah said, gently encouraging him, the warmth of their budding connection fueling her own hope. "We're ready to listen." He nodded slowly, a flicker of determination igniting within him. "All right. But I'm warning you, it's messy. And not what you'd expect." "Messy is good," Lucy replied, a tentative smile breaking through her anxious demeanor. "Yeah," Sarah added, "let's embrace the messy part of life together." The three of them sat there, enveloped in an unseen bond, the air thick with promise and untold stories. Lucy looked between them, her earlier uncertainty giving way to a quieter strength, while Mark felt cracks forming around the walls he had built around his heart. As Sarah prepared to listen, she realized that maybe this was exactly what she needed to hear, too. Each of them faced a decision, to face fears, embrace vulnerability, and embark on a collective journey of transformation. What would they uncover when they laid their truths bare? Would their stories resonate together, or would the fear of judgment pull them apart? Each breath they took felt like a step towards something more, and the energy in the diner shifted charged with possibility. And as Mark opened his mouth to speak, saying, "It all started back when the world outside faded into the background, leaving only their corner table and the courageous act of sharing what lived within their hearts." Mark took a deep breath, feeling exposed yet strangely liberated. He could almost hear the hum of the diner fading away, as if the universe had conspired to create this moment just for them. "It all started back when I was in high school," he began, his voice shaking just a little. "I was the quiet kid, always in the background. I never quite fit in, not like the star athletes or the popular girls. I mostly kept to myself." As the words rolled off his tongue, he saw Lucy lean in, her eyes wide and hopeful. Sarah's encouraging nod felt like a lifeline. "I remember a specific day, it was during a talent show. Everyone else was up there, showing off their skills. But I sat in the audience, so envious. I wanted so much to stand on that stage and share my story, but fear held me back. I didn't have a talent to showcase, or so I thought." Mark paused, searching for the right words as memories flooded back. Then, something unexpected happened. One of my classmates, a girl named Mia, got up to perform. She wasn't the best singer, but she sang with all her heart. It was pretty rough at times, but the way she poured her soul into it moved me deeply. She admitted she was scared and that it was her first time on the stage. And that's when I realized we're all so afraid of being vulnerable, you know. Both Lucy and Sarah remained silent, lost in their own thoughts, but Mark could see the connection forming. "Mia showed me that the messy parts of us are what make us real. That night, I decided to share something, too. I wrote a poem about my struggles of feeling invisible. When I got up there, my hands were shaking, but I spoke my truth. I can't tell you how liberating it felt." "Did people like it?" Lucy asked, her voice barely above a whisper, enraptured by his story. Mark chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Not really. Some people laughed, others just stared blankly. And for a moment, I felt small again. But then, something amazing happened. A few days later, a couple of kids came up to me. They said my poem resonated with them, that they felt the same way. It made me realize that being brave means facing heartbreak too, and embracing who we truly are." A smile spread across Lucy's face, her eyes glistening with understanding. "So, it's okay to feel weird and messy?" "Yes," Sarah answered for him, the warmth of vulnerability radiating at the table. It's more than okay. That's what makes you, you. And who knows? Maybe your mess is someone else's lifeline. Mark nodded, a sense of solidarity growing between them. He could feel his old wounds healing, if only a little, by sharing this moment. I guess my journey isn't over. Each time I open up, it's like I'm stripping away another layer. It's scary, but it's also rewarding. As Mark shared his story, something dawned on Sarah. Could narrating their lives forge deeper connections? Would Lucy too find the courage to embrace her own journey? The diner's light seemed to flicker in agreement, the universe whispering encouragement. Suddenly, Lucy looked down, her brow furrowed. But what if I don't know how to start? What if no one wants to hear it? Mark reached across the table, his eyes earnest and sincere. You start by being honest with yourself. You've got a story, Lucy. We all do. Sometimes it just takes someone like you to shine a light on it and let the world see. The air in the diner crackled with a shared understanding as Lucy took a deep breath, absorbing his words. The thought of sharing her own story flickered like a candle recently ignited, illuminating the darkness of self-doubt. Just then, the bell above the diner door jingled loudly, announcing the arrival of a new customer. They hadn't noticed the time slipping away, nor the fact that the sun was beginning to set outside, casting an orange glow through the windows. Mark's heart began to race again, pondering the next step in their newfound bond. What stories would rise to the surface now? And would Lucy's newfound determination push her to embrace her own narrative, perhaps even change the course of her life? The possibilities hung extraordinary in the air, leaving questions tantalizingly unanswered as they lingered on the brink of revelation. The moment was filled with an electricity that seemed to bounce between them. Lucy looked up, her resolve flickering like that candle before the wind. Okay, she said, her voice suddenly steadier. How do I start? Mark felt a wave of relief wash over him. You just have to speak from your heart. Think about the moments that shaped you, the highs and lows. The stuff that keeps you up at night, and the things that make you smile. Sarah watched them both, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and excitement. She wanted to be part of this transformation but felt a twinge of fear for her own story bubbling under the surface. For now, she kept it to herself, urging Lucy on with her presence. Tell me about one of those moments, Mark prompted gently. What is something that stands out? Lucy bit her lip, her mind racing. She could feel her heart thumping, as though each beat echoed against the worn diner walls. Well, back in middle school, I joined the debate team, she started hesitantly. I wanted to prove I could be more than just the bookish girl. I practiced day and night, but when I finally got up to speak, I completely froze. I could see my classmates out there, laughing, whispering. I felt like the smallest person in the world. Mark listened intently, nodding. That sounds terrifying. It was, she continued, her voice a bit stronger now. But then something surprising happened after class. A girl from the team, Emma, came up to me. She told me she had felt the same way during her first debate. It made me feel less alone, but I still never really talked about it, about feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. Mark smiled encouragingly. That's a beautiful realization, he said softly. You connected with Emma at that moment. Maybe sharing it now can have the same impact on someone else. Lucy looked down at her hands, her fingers fidgeting with the edges of the napkin on the table. The warmth of Mark's words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. But what if I say something that turns them off? What if I fail again? Isn't that part of it? Sarah jumped in, her eyes shining. Vulnerability in sharing is about accepting the risk of failure. It's how we grow. As silence settled in, Mark felt the weight of Lucy's anxiety. Imagine what could happen if you do share, he added. What if your story is a lifeline for someone else? Just like Mia and Emma were for me and you. Lucy lifted her head, a flicker of defiance igniting in her eyes. Could she really do this? Outside, the sun dipped ever lower, casting long shadows through the diner window. The world beyond flickered with a gentle warmth, as if urging her to step into the light. "Okay," she whispered, clenching her fists before her. "Okay, I'm going to try." Mark's heart soared. They had all shared pieces of themselves, and here was Lucy, on the cusp of something transformative. But just then, the door swung open again, revealing a familiar face that made Mark's breath hitch in his throat. It was his childhood friend, Jake, with his confident stride and a smile that felt both comforting and jarring. "Mark!" Jake called out, spotting him. "You won't believe what just happened." Mark's mind raced. Would Jake want to hear about the stories they were just beginning to crack open? What memories would his arrival stir up? As laughter erupted at their table, Lucy's newfound commitment hovered in the air, shadowed by the unexpected visitor. Would Jake's presence change everything? Mark's heart raced as he watched Jake approach, that familiar grin on his face signaling trouble just as much as good news. Jake had always been the life of every gathering, and part of Mark had wanted this moment to feel like a reunion, full of joy and nostalgia. But another part of him, the part that had just started to peel back the layers of his own struggles and those of Lucy and Sarah, felt a quickening pulse of anxiety. "Jake, hey!" Mark managed, forcing a smile as Jake plopped into the booth. "What is going on?" "Just had this wild meeting with the board." "You'll never believe," Jake began, but then noticed the delicate atmosphere around them. He shifted his focus to Lucy and Sarah, an eyebrow raised. "Mind if I join? You all look like you're deep in conversation." Lucy swallowed hard, the weight of their unspoken stories settling in the space between the four of them. We were just talking about experiences," she said, her voice shaky but determined. "Sounds interesting." Jake leaned in, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I'm all ears." "What are your experiences?" Mark glanced at Lucy. The moment felt like it teetered on a knife's edge. Would she share? Could she open up with Jake here, someone who didn't know the struggles she was dancing around? "Well, I was just sharing about a moment from middle school," Lucy began, her cheeks flushing. "When I tried out for the debate team and, I froze on stage." Jake turned to her, genuinely interested. "Wow, that sounds tough. What happened next?" For a second, Lucy hesitated, but she saw the sincerity in Jake's eyes. "A girl from the team, Emma, came up to me after. She said she felt that way too, and it made me realize I wasn't alone. I never really talked about those feelings again, you know. But it stuck with me." "That's brave," Jake said, nodding. "I get it. I had my own deal with fear back in high school too. I almost didn't join the wrestling team because I was terrified of failing. But I did it anyway. And I learned so much from it." Mark felt the pulse of the conversation shift, a new energy rising. He turned to Sarah, whose eyes sparkled with something between hope and fear. "What about you?" he asked gently, encouraging her to jump in. Sarah's mouth opened as she took a breath, uncertainty clouding her face. "I once had a chance to present my art at a gallery, but I chickened out. I spent months preparing, but when the day came, I couldn't find the courage. I remember standing outside, my heart racing, and just turning around and running." Her words came out in a rush, and with them flowed years of regret and longing. Lucy's gaze shifted, understanding flaring between them. "You've got to share your story," she said, her voice rising with passion. "We all have to. Wouldn't that connect us? We might not be perfect, but those moments just show who we really are." The diner hummed with life around them, laughter and conversations flowing like streams. Yet in their little nook, a bubble of understanding formed. Mark and Sarah both nodded, inspired by Lucy's courage. Jake leaned back, absorbing the stories unfolding like petals. "This is incredible. These moments, they're what define you." Then he cleared his throat, his face turning serious. I need to tell you all about what happened. The meeting, it might just open a door for all of us. As Jake glanced around, looking for the right words, Lucy felt a mix of fear and excitement. What would Jake reveal? And how would it alter their path? The air was thick with anticipation, holding the promise of change. Just as Jake began to speak, the diner's door creaked again, pulling their attention away. A stranger stepped in, eyes scanning the room, desperation evident in their expression. Was this new arrival going to shift their fragile dynamic? Would it push them toward deeper conversations or further complicate things? The stranger walked in slowly, their clothes a bit worn but tidy, and the lines of their face told stories of long days and sleepless nights. Mark squinted, filtering out the noise of the diner, focusing solely on this unexpected visitor. The way the newcomer surveyed the room, it was clear they were searching for something or someone. Jake cleared his throat, momentarily forgetting the meeting he wanted to discuss. "Hey, you alright?" he called out, catching the stranger's attention. Mark exchanged glances with Lucy and Sarah, curiosity shared on their faces. The stranger paused, clearly taken aback. I'm looking for someone," they replied, voice shaky yet determined. "A friend. I haven't seen them in months." A knot began to form in Mark's stomach. Was this person going to pull them back into the past they were on the brink of escaping? But he also felt a deep empathy. How often had he wished for a familiar face when he was lost? "Do you want to sit with us?" Jake offered, gesturing to the empty seat at their booth. "Maybe we can help." The stranger hesitated, then nodded, sliding in beside Mark. "Thanks. I just thought, maybe they might come here." They took a deep breath, grasping the edges of the table as if it was the only thing anchoring them. Lucy spoke softly, "What's their name?" "Charlie," the stranger said, eyes fluttering with a mix of hope and dread. "I know they've had a lot going on. I'm worried." The atmosphere shifted again, palpable with concern. Sarah, her heart heavy, leaned forward. "This kind of connection is really important. Have you thought about reaching out to them in a different way? Maybe through social media or friends?" "I've tried." No responses, the stranger admitted, voice cracking slightly. "They've been struggling to open up." Mark felt the weight of that sentiment hit home. He wanted to scream that they weren't alone, that everyone in this booth understood the feeling of being lost and scared at the brink of change. It was what they had been talking about moments before, the importance of sharing one's story. "Maybe we can share our experiences," Lucy suggested gently. "Sometimes, knowing someone else has faced fear can help." The stranger nodded slowly. "I don't know. It just feels too raw right now." "I get it," said Jake, scratching his head. "But talking about it can be a first step. We can support each other through this." His enthusiasm shifted the air again. There was warmth in his voice, like he was extending a hand into the dark. "Okay," the stranger whispered, a small spark igniting in their eyes. "I'll try. I don't want to lose Charlie." As the conversation flowed between the four of them, sharing their struggles, Mark felt an unanticipated bond form. Jake's earlier revelation about the meeting suddenly felt trivial compared to the raw vulnerability laid out in front of them. With each word spoken, something crucial began to build a collective power. Their narratives intertwined, forming a newfound tapestry of connection in the small diner booth. But just as they started to find common ground and the comfort of shared struggles, Mark noticed the stranger's eyes darting again to the entrance. "Wait, is that them?" they gasped, leaning forward, straining to see. Mark's heart pounded. Were they about to witness a long-awaited reunion? Or would this moment shatter all the newly sewn threads of hope? The door swung open wide, the bell chiming cheerfully. A figure stepped in, silhouetted against the light. Mark held his breath, the weight of countless possibilities hanging thick in the air. The figure stepped into the diner, casting a long shadow that seemed to stretch across the warmth of their little gathering. Mark's heart raced as he caught sight of the familiar face Charlie, the friend the stranger had been searching for. There was a moment of suspended silence, as if the entire diner paused to witness this pivotal reunion. Charlie paused in the doorway, their brow knit with uncertainty, panic flickering in their eyes as they scanned the room. "Charlie!" The stranger burst out, voice trembling with disbelief and joy. They practically leapt from their seat, rushing forward as Charlie's gaze landed on them. The two met in an embrace tentative at first, then stronger as breaths of relief and joy intertwined. It was a reunion soaked in raw emotion, the type that healed old wounds and bridged fractures between hearts. Mark could barely breathe as he witnessed the weight of anxiety lift from the stranger's shoulders. "Where have you been?" they asked, pulling back just enough to search Charlie's face, tears glistening in their eyes. "I needed some time," Charlie replied, voice cracking. "I didn't know how to reach out, but I thought of you. I kept hoping you'd be here. We've been worried sick." They laughed through their tears, relief washing over them like a warm wave. The tension in the diner shifted, everyone could feel it, the energy of hope and understanding radiating through the room. Seeing their joy, Sarah felt an awakening inside her. Just moments before, they had all sat around the table, sharing their struggles and fears. Now here was proof: connection, vulnerability, and the power of shared experience. Mark exchanged glances with Lucy and Jake, each of them feeling the weight of their own fears ease just a little as they witnessed this moment. Maybe they all shared a similar journey after all. As Charlie and the stranger embraced, Mark stood. "It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to take a step back to find yourself," he called out, letting the wisdom of their earlier conversations spill into the moment. "And it's okay to ask for help. You're not alone." Charlie turned, wet eyes finding Mark's, recognition dawning in their expression. I needed to hear that," they replied, voice shaking yet stronger. "Thank you all." Now, each person in the diner felt a part of this collective tapestry, the threads of struggles, bravery, and authenticity woven together in harmony. Lucy, emboldened by the warmth in the air, offered, "We've all faced fears, but it's the courage to share them that creates real connections." Mark nodded, emotions welling up. He turned to Sarah. "You're about to speak at the charity event, right? This is your moment, too. Share your story." Her gaze flickered between him and the girl who had just stepped back from an emotional revelation about her struggles. It was exactly what she needed to hear. Gathering her courage, Sarah felt the pulse of vulnerability resonate within her. "Okay," she said, gripping the table. "I will." As she found her voice, the diner felt alive with possibility. The bell chimed again, inviting a new rush of customers, but no one could disrupt the moment. Sarah's story spilled out like a river, long dammed her painful struggles, her hopes, and dreams that she took up once more. Charlie listened, breathless, their wide eyes reflecting every shred of emotion Sarah put into her words. As Sarah spoke, the connection between all of them deepened, a quilt of shared humanity unfolding in real time. Mark felt something shift within himself, to a release. He could feel all those years of disappointment lifting away from his shoulders. Facing the stranger, he added, "It takes guts to step out of the shadows. You have the strength to come forward just like Charlie did. And everyone here supports you." Lucy, emboldened by this alliance, leaned in, "Each story matters. Yours, mine, everyone's. We're together in this shared experience." At that moment, in the heart of a little diner on the corner of Maple and Main, they all understood something profound: it's never too late to be heard, to feel valued, to forge a brighter path forward. As the bustling noise of the diner returned to normal, laughter and the clinking of utensils resonated in the background. Together they had shared moments of vulnerability, glimmering like stars breaking through a heavy cloud. Mark glanced at Sarah, who was catching her breath, now glowing with determination. "You've got this," he whispered, and she met his gaze with a growing smile, a promise of impending change. No longer was Sarah simply a waitress in a diner struggling to make ends meet. She had become a voice for those who needed strength, and each person there was a testament to her bravery, their collective heart pounding with inspiration. They all felt something transformative, a chorus of hope echoing through the diner. The world might still be daunting outside, but they had built a sanctuary together, one that would buoy them through whatever lay beyond those doors. Mark nodded to himself, knowing he now had a community, a new family of courageous souls. As he witnessed Sarah getting up to speak at the upcoming event, he believed fiercely, they could all carry each other's burdens and ultimately forge their destinies. No more shadows, just light ahead. Remember, it's time to embrace your own journey and make your voice heard. If you felt inspired by this story, now is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that uplift and transform. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the spirit of resilience alive. Comment with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice is just as powerful. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. The power of your community starts right here.